Hey guys, it's the Anon Mouse. We've covered before how nearly every scientific claim the Quran makes is false. We've also touched before about how a lot of the stories that it has is also false and taken from previous legends. Today, we'll be talking about the origins of the scientific errors in the Quran. I'm sure you can all guess where they're from. The Quran and Hadith contain statements about body fluids and the stages of development of the human embryo. Many of these descriptions are vague and unscientific. They also blame striking resemblance to similar descriptions found in the Jewish Talmud and those of the ancient Greeks, including their errors. So, without further ado, let's start. I just want to make a quick shout out to wikiislam.net. I got a lot of the material for this video from them, like I do for a lot of other videos. They're amazing, and I highly recommend you check them out. The Quran states, incorrectly, that semen originates from somewhere between the backbone and the ribs. Today, we know sperm comes from the testicles and semen from the various glands behind and below the bladder, which is not between the ribs and the backbone. The Quran quote, Quran Surah 86, Ayah 6-7. He is created from a drop emitted, proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs. Where did this absurd notion come from? Well, as you will commonly see in Islam, the answer is from the Greeks and the Jews. We'll start with Philip Van Der Eijk's translation of Diocles of Carystus. The seed is secreted, as Plato and Diocles say, from the brain and the spinal marrow. But Praxagoras, Democritus, and Hippocrates, too, say that it is secreted from the whole of the body. Strange. Well, let's see if there's any other sources. Samuel Kottek summarizes from the Hippocratic perspective, which you alluded to, which argued that the seed originated from the whole body and arises in the spinal cord like a foam and flows through the kidneys. From the Hippocratic author, the seed originates from the whole body, from the solid and liquid parts, a kind of foam. It arises in the spinal cord and flows thence through the veins to the kidney, then to the testicles. Now, finally, you heard that this was very strange, but because it's so strange in particular, we'll go through one more variation. Here, from G.E.R. Lloyd and Chadwick's Hippocratic writings. This fluid is diffused from the brain into the loins and the whole body, but in particular into the spinal marrow. From passages extending into this from the whole body, which enables the fluid to pass to and from the spinal marrow. Once the sperm has entered the spinal marrow, it passes in its course through the whole veins along the kidney. Sometimes, if there is a lesion in the kidneys, blood is carried along with the sperm. From the kidneys, it passes via the testicles into the penis, not, however, by the urinary tract, since it is a passage of its own, which is next to the urinary tract. Not only is the Quran wrong in saying that sperm comes from between the backbones of the ribs, which in and of itself is proof of its man-made origins, these errors are actually plagiarized from earlier works. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Now, let's go into the second Quranic error. This describes how embryology works and how the Quran says that bones are formed before the flesh. The Quran explains that the bones of the human embryo are formed first and then covered with flesh. Modern scientific studies and research shows that the muscles and cartilage start to form at the same time and in parallel. Muscles have started to form long before the cartilage models become replaced with bone. Let's quote the Quran so you don't think I'm making stuff up. Quran Surah 23, Ayah 14. Then we made the sperm into a clot of congealed blood. Then that clot we made a fetus lump, or a lump of flesh, as you find in other translations. Then we made out of the lump bones. Then clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature. So blessed be Allah, the best to create. We've mentioned multiple times before that this is erroneous, and we may have tipped on it before that this is from the Greeks, not by any divine revelation. Let's talk about which specific Greek they got it from. It is actually the Greek physician Galen. Galen, in his book on semen, says, "And now the third period of gestation has come. After nature has made outlines of all the organs and the substance of the semen is used up, the time has come for nature to articulate the organs precisely and to bring all parts to completion. Thus, it causes flesh to grow on and around all the bones." Basically, the Quran's incorrect embryology comes straight from Galen. We just talked about the Quran, but let's also go into the sahih hadiths. This is at least a little more diverse, as the source material is not just the Greeks, but it takes from the Greeks and the Jews. It's about the resemblance of children to their parents. Sahih al-Bukhari 455, 546. As for the resemblance of a child to its parents, if a man has sexual intercourse with his wife and gets discharged first, the child will resemble the father. And when a woman gets discharged first, the child will resemble her. A similar idea can be found from the Talmud. R. Isaac, citing R. Ami, stated, "If a woman admits her semen first, she bears a male child. If the male admits his semen first, it bears a female child." Babylonian Talmud, Nida 31. The same thing is reported in Barakoth 60a. Has not R. Isaac, the son of R. Ami, said, "Is the man first admits a seed, the child will be a girl. If the woman first admits a seed, the child will be a boy." Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Barakoth, Folio 6a. Now, the Greek theories. This is attributed to Aristotle in De Generatione Animalium, quoted from Philip Wheelwright. Democritus of Abdera says that gender, is determined in the womb, whether the offspring is to be male or female. He denies, however, the theory of Empedocles that heat and cold are what makes the difference. It depends, he thinks, upon which of the two parents' generative fluids prevails, i.e., the part of the fluid that comes from the distinctively male or female parts, rather than which has come from the body as a whole. Now notice that it says from the body as a whole. This actually has to do with the previous Quran error that was copied from the Greeks that we talked about earlier. Now, coming back to the paragraph, of the two theories, that of Democritus is better, for he is trying to discover and specify the exact way in which the sexes become differentiated. But whether he is right or wrong is another matter. While the Hadith doesn't specifically talk about sexual differentiation, and rather about the resemblance of parents and the way features are inherited, the way that the features are actually inherited is stolen straight from the incorrect assumptions of these more ancient works. The Hadith theories are exactly what the previous Greeks and Jews had postulated, not what the true nature of the world was. If Muhammad was a real prophet, then he would have said what the truth was, and would not have just copied the works of previous authors, more ancient scholarly authorities. We've seen before that the Quran and Muhammad plagiarized earlier works. In our previous examples, we saw how they stole previous legends. In today's episode, we saw how they plagiarized incorrect theories about human development. Why is it that this book, that is supposed to be from a god, keeps making the same errors that fallible people living thousands of years ago made? Why does it keep happening?